Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, and this is Comic Class, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. And I'll be totally honest with you. I was planning on skipping Comic Class this week. I was not planning on talking about anything simply because E3 is going on. And if you follow this channel, then you know that we don't just talk about comic books, we talk about everything from the world of geekery, and E3 is the event I look forward to more than anything else all year long. I've been making one video after another, multiple videos every single day, talking about everything being announced at E3. I've been having a blast, so I was just going to kind of skip Comic Class this week. I've had tons of people sending me news stories to talking about, oh my goodness, can you believe this terrible thing that's happening in the world of comic books? And I'm just sitting over here like, shh, no, shh. It's E3. I'm happy right now. I'm not gonna let the comic book dark clouds get rid of my sunshine. Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry 5 were just announced. I don't need to feel sad right now. So I wasn't going to talk about anything from the world of comic books unless something absolutely huge happened. Something absolutely huge happened. Geoff Johns announced that he is stepping down as the Chief Creative Officer at DC Comics. Now, if you have watched this channel for long enough, then you know I love Geoff Johns. I praise that dude non-stop. In fact, pretty much everything at DC that I like at DC at the moment, I can kind of point to Geoff Johns and go, yeah, either he wrote it, or he started the thing that led into this, or you can tell that this is trying to be in the same tone of books that he enjoys. So he, as the Chief Creative Officer, might have come in here and given them some notes, might have come in here and told them what direction to go in. He might have mapped out some larger story that this is tying into. Basically, he has been overseeing all the really darn good stuff at DC over the past couple of years. He's stepping down, but that is not to say that he is leaving the company. He is actually now going to become almost kind of a free agent, except that he is now still tied to DC Comics. He's not going to move around and do his own stuff. He's still working for DC, but he's now just going to kind of work everywhere at DC. He is going to create new content for them for their comics, their TV shows, their movies, and all their new web-based ventures. This is very interesting. And I don't exactly know how it's going to play out. I don't exactly know what this means, because when it comes to Geoff Johns' role at DC Comics, it's always kind of just been, I don't want to say a secret because we know what he was doing, but we never really knew who else he was working with, who else had what amount of say in what he was doing, because I remember that he was kind of in charge of the DC comic universe for a while there, but then later it kind of got revealed that no, it was really still Dan DiDio and Jim Lee. They were the ones kind of pulling the shots, and they were actually kind of like keeping him from doing stuff because they wanted him to do other things. Because when he was the Chief Creative Officer, when he got promoted to that, a lot of what he was doing was he was working not just with the comics, he was working as the link between the comics and their movies. But he kept kind of getting shackled in both of those realms, because I remember when the New 52 started up, a lot of people kept saying, oh yeah, it's Geoff Johns, Dan DiDio, and Jim Lee, they're the ones behind it. But then you go in there and you look at what the New 52 did, where it got rid of all the legacy characters, and it got rid of all these characters from the past, and it got rid of many of fan favorite characters, and they were fan favorite characters to Geoff Johns. And Geoff Johns loves legacy characters. That's like one of the main things he has always tried to promote at DC Comics. The New 52 kind of got rid of all the stuff that he enjoyed. However, when you think about the fact that Jim Lee was working in there, you realize, oh yeah, this is kind of way more in tone with like Wildstorm comics. This is way more in tone with the kind of stuff that Jim Lee always used to put out there. So then later on down the road of the New 52, it kind of got revealed, yeah, Geoff Johns, he wants to do way more stuff there, but Dan DiDio and Jim Lee have limited him to only doing this many stuff, to doing these many comics, to having this much influence at the company, because they want him to work more with their movies. So after that kind of revelation came out, it was like, oh, now I see he hasn't actually been doing really anything with their comics. But then like Rebirth came around, and Rebirth brought all that stuff back, all the stuff that Geoff Johns was known for, including like Wally West, one of the characters he wrote for the longest time, and the JSA came back, another team that he wrote for the longest time. He brought back all that stuff that we kind of loved about DC Comics. And I looked at that and I went, that's Geoff Johns. That's the stuff that he's known for. So all the stuff that I've been enjoying with Rebirth, I've really been giving Geoff Johns a lot of credit for that, because you can clearly look at that and go, this is something that he had a huge hand in. But he has had to divide his time up between doing this stuff with Rebirth, doing this stuff with DC Comics, but also doing this stuff with their movies. Again, he has tried to be the link between their movies, their televisions, and the comic book company. And again, there were all these stories coming out that they just kept limiting what he was allowed to do because they wanted him to work more on the movies. But now, he's stepping down from that title so that he can kind of just do whatever he wants. Basically, this sounds like good news because it sounds like he's just taking all the limiters off of him. It's like, no. I'm no longer going to have someone above me telling me what to do. I'm going to go and do my own thing because when it comes to the movie side, he's starting his own production company now. And that production company is working very closely with DC Comics. Their first big project is the new Green Lantern Corps movie, which, hey man, this is a guy who had a legendary run on the Green Lantern book. So if you're going to give someone control of the Green Lantern movie, yeah, that's the guy to go with. I'm excited about that idea. At least as excited as I can be about a DC Comics movie because, yeah, even if he is coming in here and he is writing one of their films, and it's the film he really should be writing, it's still the DC Comics movies, and they still have no idea what they're doing. I don't just mean in like the tone or the direction of their films. I mean, they currently have, I am kidding you not, over 20 movies in production. And we have not heard anything about any of those movies in the longest time, but they're still technically happening. They're still coming around. In fact, every now and again, DC comes out here and re-announces a movie that they already announced. Remember like 2 weeks ago when everybody flipped their lip because, oh my God, Jared Leto's Joker is getting his own movie. Can you believe that's happening? Yeah, I can, because they literally announced it 6 months ago. Why did they come in here and re-announce it? Don't you remember when we all flipped our lids over it when it was first announced? Why are we doing that again? Yeah, DC's movie side, again, it's just random madness happening over there. There's like no direction. And for a while, it really did look like they were trying to make Geoff Johns their Kevin Feige. Their guy who's going to be, no, I have the vision, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to give you the vision, we're going to make this happen. And then Justice League didn't pull in hardly any money, and they handed that job title now over to someone else. To a guy who was behind The Conjuring and the It film. I was like, oh, that's not who I think of when I think of superhero films. Are you sure you don't want to like keep sticking it with Geoff Johns? Because he really worked hard alongside Patty Jenkins on Wonder Woman, and that one turned out okay. But maybe, you know, Justice League's failures weren't exactly his fault. Maybe that thing was just a jumbled mess from the beginning and he couldn't come in here and save that thing. Shouldn't really blame him for that one. So yeah, he is no longer really overseeing any of their movies. He's now making movies. Really the way that I look at this, because it's not just the movies. It's not just the fact that he is now no longer overseeing their films. He's now actually going to make the Green Lantern film. At their comic book side, he's also no longer really overseeing any of their books. He's now just going to go and make books. And as I said, Jim Lee and Dan DiDio, they tried to limit the amount of books that he could work on. At least that's the story that broke out. But now you look at it and it's like, oh wow, so is he just not going to make any more books for these guys? He's going to keep writing the Doomsday Clock book, which, good, he started that. You can't exactly just jump off a book halfway through. But also, he's now going to start a brand new imprint at DC called The Killing Zone, which is going to focus on lesser known DC characters, which, man, I'm kind of torn on this because on the one hand, oh wow, he's going to get his own imprint that he's going to be overseeing. Oh man, that sounds like it could be great. But at the same time, DC has been launching a lot of imprints. They've got their new Black Label thing going on. They're relaunching Vertigo. They still have all that stuff with Doom Patrol and the Young Animal line. They've got this going on. There was another one announced that I've completely forgotten. Don't get me wrong, I actually think it's really cool that they're creating all these imprints to try and get different tones to their books, to try and get different audiences in there. I've actually been saying I want to see that happen more. In fact, I even made a video long ago in which I was saying Marvel needs to come back in here and start doing that as well. That's awesome. But maybe you're launching a little too many too quickly. Like, maybe you should wait a little while before you get out there the next one, because Black Label hasn't even started yet. And now we've already announced the next new label of books that you're putting out there. It's just kind of weird that they're putting out that many that quickly. I would like it if they kind of slowed down a little bit, gave you some time to get to know each of these new books you're putting out there. But he's going to launch a new line of books over there. But he's also now not only going to continue writing Watchmen, he's also now going to write a 12-part Shazam storyline, which, good, he's been wanting to do that forever. and he just hasn't been able to, which I'm wondering again if that goes back to the whole fact that they were limiting him so that he could keep working on the movie side. But he is also going to write the storyline called Three Jokers, which again, that's something that he set up, this idea that there isn't just one Joker, there are three Jokers out there. That's something that he started, and it would have been a real dick move to come in here and go, hey, I just created the greatest mystery in the history of DC Comics. You guys tell me what it means. Bye. Yeah, that would have been a weird turn of events for him, but no, he's going to continue doing that. And I'm looking at all this. By the way, sorry, I've got allergies going like crazy right now, so if I'm constantly sniffling through this, that's what's up. Okay, but yeah, I keep looking at this, and it's like, wow, he's stepping down from this position, and he's getting to do so much more stuff now. This really is like, there's an old saying when it comes to politics that you can get so much more done as soon as you leave office, because your hands are no longer tied by anything and you're kind of allowed to just go out there and do whatever you want. You can see that happen a lot with politicians. Like the moment that they leave office, they're suddenly doing all this stuff that they want to do in office. That's kind of what this reminds me of. It kind of feels like when he was actually in this position, he was being tied down. He had to follow the rules that his bosses were setting up. Everybody was saying, no, you can only write this many books each month because we need you to focus on the movies. No, you can't do that with the movies because we have to do this thing over here. You're tied into this person over here doing this thing with this movie. You can't do that part. There's someone overseeing your movie, so you don't have full control over this thing. Oh, when it comes to the television stuff, actually with the television stuff, I think he had pretty decent control of that over there. But this really feels like he just went, yeah, man, I just got too many things that I want to do. I'm leaving. I'm leaving so that I can now do all the things that I want to do. I'm going out of office so that I now have that freedom again. And that's really darn cool. As I've said, I love Geoff Johns. That guy constantly impresses me with what he does. So if he now has basically like removed the limiters from himself and he's now free to go out there and do whatever he wants, yeah, that is great news. But is that what's going to happen? That's my question, because yes, he's now going to be writing a movie, and he's going to be working more closely with their TV shows than he was before, and he's going to be working on the DC streaming service, he's going to be working on the new Titans show that's coming up, and he's got all these comic books coming out. Is he going to be able to do all this? That is a lot for one man to do. So yeah, I'm kind of nervous by the amount of stuff that he has to do, but I do think that if anybody could pull it off, it's Geoff Johns. It does feel like this is a guy who he's been itching to do this stuff. He's been itching to get out of the office and actually do all this. So yeah, I am intrigued to see him attempt it. I am intrigued to see him like now have more control over each of these stories and be allowed to do more stuff that he really wants to do. So that sounds great to me. But the question now comes, what is going to happen to the future of DC Comics? Because, as I said, the New 52 came around, and even though they say Geoff Johns had a hand in that, that was also around the time that story broke out that Dan DiDio and Jim Lee, who also were the guys that they said helped create the New 52, they were kind of limiting the amount of influence that he was having over these books. And when you look at the New 52, when you look at how it got rid of the legacy characters and all these other characters that Geoff Johns had said that he loves and had worked on in the past, and now everybody had big metal shoulder pad costumes and everybody was being written like a Wildstorm character, it makes you go, oh, it kind of feels like Jim Lee had way more influence over this universe than Geoff Johns did. And Jim Lee is the guy who's taking back over the Chief Creative Officer position. So it has me wonder, okay, I've been loving Rebirth. I've been looking at Rebirth and going, this is exactly what I want out of DC Comics. And there is that fear that I have that now with Geoff Johns gone and Jim Lee in that position, are we going to be heading back into those dark New 52 times? Are we going to be going back into that territory that I wasn't the biggest fan of? But there is another option here, which if you guys go back to the video that I made when Brian Michael Bendis left Marvel Comics and went over to DC Comics, I said in that video, he and Geoff Johns are really good friends. And Geoff Johns has made it clear he's not going to be at DC forever because he wants to work more on other projects. He wants to work more closely with the movies and the TV shows, and he has all these other ideas. Thankfully, he is still going to be working on the comics, but basically, he's doing the exact thing that I said that he was going to do in that video. And in that video, I said, could it be that the main reason why Brian Michael Bendis is leaving Marvel, the company he has worked at forever, the reason he's leaving that to come over to DC is because his friend Geoff Johns basically said to him, listen, I ain't going to be here much longer. I'm going to be stepping down from this position at some point. We're going to need someone to take over. And for basically the past 10 years, even though it wasn't official, it wasn't on paper, you didn't have this title, we all know you were basically kind of the guy running things at Marvel. So many of the big events, so many of the big directions that characters took, so many of the big books out there that Marvel put out over the past 10 years, you had a major hand in. A lot of it was your vision. Come over to DC, and when I leave, listen, there'll be a little transition period in there, which we'll hand over to someone else, but then it will go to you. You'll be the guy overseeing everything happening at DC. That's literally why I said might end up happening when Brian Michael Bendis leaves Marvel to go DC. Brian Michael Bendis is now fully at DC, and almost the second that he had unpacked at his desk, Geoff Johns walked out of there and said, cool, it will soon be going to someone else. And at the moment it's going to Jim Lee because, yeah, they're not going to immediately hand this over to the guy who just walked in the door. But it does make me think this is really interesting timing. It does kind of line up with my crazy theory that I had. And if that happened, if Brian Michael Bendis ended up taking over that position that Geoff Johns had, how would I feel? Because you guys know me, I'm not the biggest fan of Brian Michael Bendis. I think he's got some really good ideas, but I think his execution is a little bit lacking. I've never really enjoyed it all that much. However, as I said, there were all these stories that broke out that said that Geoff Johns wasn't allowed to write as much stuff as he wanted to in that position. But he was allowed to put ideas out there. And as I just said, I think Brian Michael Bendis, even though he doesn't have really good execution, he does have some pretty good ideas. So part of me is nervous because I don't really want to see Brian Michael Bendis in charge of the DC universe. But if Brian Michael Bendis was in that position that Geoff Johns was in, where he was only allowed to put out their ideas, and other people had to work with that, that could be interesting. Granted, again, it could mean that DC would now just have one crossover after another like Marvel did for 10 years. But I don't really know if that was Bendis' doing. I think that could have just been the chief officers at Marvel, and Bendis just kind of rolled with it. Again, this video is a lot of me just talking about stuff that is just whispers and rumors and me just trying to make assumptions about, which is a very irresponsible video for me to make. But I know you guys want me to make this, so it's here. Yeah, nothing is really concrete. Everything that we really know about this is just kind of like whispers from behind closed doors. But those whispers, it does ask questions. It does make you think, okay, this could be a thing that happens. This could be a thing that happens. And really what I've just been doing today is just putting out there all the different theories about what could be happening based on the limited amount of info that we have. So I hope that this video today was able to help you guys understand what's happening, even though I myself don't fully understand what's happening, because I told you guys what we know on paper. What they have said is happening. But when it comes to DC, especially their movie department, what they say is happening is not typically what is actually happening, and there's typically a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and especially when it comes to this title of Chief Creative Officer and Geoff Johns' role in that position. There have been stuff going on behind the scenes that we've really only kind of heard whispers of, but those whispers do kind of back up the stuff that we have seen playing out. So yeah, I just want to kind of get out there every single possible view on this issue. I wanted to give you guys the facts, but then also kind of go into some crazy speculation. And if there's one thing that this channel is known for, it's crazy speculation. So I hope that I kind of helped you guys come to some sort of an understanding of this. Hope to get you guys to a position where you can kind of grasp what could happen and what definitely is happening. So let me know your thoughts on this situation down in the comments down below. I can't talk much longer because my allergies are about to cause my head to explode like that dude from Scanners. So I'm just going to wrap up here and just say thank you guys for joining us for another comic class. We do this every single Wednesday on this channel, no matter what other giant events are going on that I would rather talk about in the other world of geekery. But if you do want to see us talk about E3, I've got tons of videos up all week long talking about that, and you can always join me on Twitch. We've been streaming all these conferences live over there at twitch.tv/ProfessorThorgy, and you can always follow me on Twitter at ProfessorThorgy. Okay, I can't talk anymore. All right, bye everyone. Come back next time. Bye.